Firing from the hip again. Let's go try to keep it right around 15 minutes. You don't want to go into a lot of la-di-da, etc., etc. But anyways, the only intention on this video is to see what comes out of me. See what comes up. Because what we put in is what comes out. What we feed our brain, what we do, what we read, what we watch, what we're listening to, who we're talking to, all that stuff. It's good tea. The timer didn't work. Anyways, speech, firing from the hip. You know what's scary? Or you know what would be scary? Getting up on stage in front of a bunch of people, unscripted. You have no freaking idea what you're going to talk about. The only thing you know is the fact of what you've been studying and what you've been researching and what you've been doing and what you've been working on. And that's it. And you know something might come out pertaining to that. So, yeah, that would be pretty scary, huh? I actually know some people that actually do that for entertainment, and it's quite exhilarating. I've tried it a couple of times myself. One time, I tried it in front of about 100 people. Well, right at 100 people. And it was so terrifying. it was so terrifying. I felt like my legs were going to buckle. It's like when I stood up to the microphone and the woman that introduced me, it's like I got up there and I looked at the crowd and I damn near froze for a microsecond. And then there was just, I felt like I was going to throw up. And I thought, oh, goddamn. I thought I'm going to have to ask Beth to take over and have somebody else stand in. I can't do it. And then I thought, no, I can do it. And then I just kind of snapped. And then I just kind of asked everybody to do a moment of silence for several seconds, let everybody quit fidgeting around, let the whole room get quiet, let everybody get settled down, and make sure it goes very quiet to where you can actually feel the stillness in the room. And then just did the serenity prayer. It's kind of a famous prayer around recovery groups and stuff like that. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yeehaw. That. But anyways, yeah, it turned out that I did that, and then I just started talking. Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. The old man told me, he's like, you did good, boy. Of course, that hillbilly, he thinks that anything you try is good. But I had a friend of mine who was a little more professional, a guy at that time. He was also a little bit better at doing stuff like that than me. He said I started off good, but he said that it just started to rambling, and then he said I went like 10 minutes over. He's like, man, we thought you was going to talk all night and never shut up. But you know what? That's what a lot of people do. That's what a lot of people do. They jump up there to share their story. They'll use these three things to go by: what their life used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. And that's it. And they just use that little rule of thumb right there. Just plain and simple, just fire from the hip, whatever comes out. Sometimes they do these things and it's, yeah, whatever, dude. And then sometimes people do these things and it'll just be like a just 7-minute speech, 5-minute speech, 15-minute speech. And you're thinking, man, that was some pretty trippy stuff, man. That's some serious meat and taters in that. I didn't expect that from that person. And then sometimes you see people who are well-versed in public speaking and stuff, and they actually do that amongst their jobs and their careers and stuff. And then you see them jump up there and you see them do terrible. Okay, maybe not terrible, but nothing like wow, But anyways, speaking, storytelling. You know, I honestly believe this one thing, and it's like, it's I honestly I think it's kind of a cop out for me, like doing things professionally. But I honestly believe if you got high value content, if you got impacting content, if you got highly effective content, if you got inspirational content, you can be nervous. Your words don't have to be so clarified as long as you convey what that content is. If you can get that basic meat and taters out there to where it's got substance and people are full but not gorged, where they get enough of it to where they're not still hungry when they walk off. September 15th, 2017, the end of that year. That was a milestone in my life. There was a snap there, a literal snap. And to this day, it was such a monumental thing in my life. I didn't even have to write it down. It's like I just remembered that day. I remember that whole year went by and stuff like that. Several months went by that whole year. I didn't even have to write that date down. I just knew. Because I was just so disgusted with myself, disgusted with life, my decisions, just the way my entire life had operated. Everything, just disgusted with all of it. Disgusted with it. You know, I think it's Jim Rohn, one of those motivational speakers out there on YouTube land and stuff like that. He touches on that quite often. You know, it's one of those things that will affect some change in a person's life. Disgust. When you're disgusted, I mean, there's a difference between being disgusted a little bit or grossed out, and then there's just disgusted. When you're completely disgusted with life in its entirety, that's when you're at a jumping off place. And I think that's kind of jumping off place where there's only basically three things that could happen. Only three. One of them is you'll basically either kill yourself or you would actually kill yourself fairly quickly via whatever type of, very wrong paths. And then the second thing would be you would think you didn't choose to live or die, and you just kind of went back onto the same path you was on. Or the third road, and that would be to where you fully decide to your innermost being that you're going to figure out somehow, some way, sometime you are going to be on the top of your game, and you're going to be the best person you can be of you, not who someone else said you should be or could be or ought to be or will be or need to be, but for you and your innermost being. That, when a person hits that point, this morning I had a piece of pen and paper. I always keep a pen and paper with me because I feel like there's like almost like a magic that comes out of the spirit of the universe, and it comes through our ideas, our off the wall ideas, but they don't come fully formed. Ideas come like a puff of smoke. It's like you can see it and then it dissipates real quickly. So it's like when you see it, you need to write that shit down on a piece of paper immediately. Don't wait. Don't let it just dissipate or whatever that word is. Go poof. Catch it. Photograph it. Anyways, got off the trail a little bit. Let's get back up on the road. That life-changing place of deciding for yourself of you're either going to fully commit to dying somehow and you're going to make that happen, or you're going to fully commit to living and making that work somehow. But that day at the end of 2017, that winter, that last quarter of that year, that's when it began, and it has never stopped for me. I have never stopped. I think one of the most powerful things that came out was something that I thought was so generic and so bland and so plain, but yet I knew it was a guiding light for me. It was my purpose and my mission and purpose that I chose for myself, that I knew that I could use all my life, no matter what I was doing or how I was doing it, and it would always propel me forward. But anyways, I'm still doing that every day. I look at that every day. That's my guiding light. Now, as for success, living life successfully, even then, I vaguely knew deep down at that time, when I wrote what success would be in my plans and missions, that I still got that in my archives. I pull them out and look at them periodically. And a lot of that, I'm not even after none of that. I mean, I had some serious detail. There was a lake house just down the way here, close on Grand Lake. It was a little under $1 million, 5-bedroom house, real nice place. And, I had that picked out and had a bunch of other, just stuff, to achieve by 2025. That's what's so cool. It's like this 6 and 7 years ago. Looking back on it, feels like it's just like yesterday when I started putting that pen to the paper. But that success thing, I wrote out on a thing. It's like part of what I was going to do, which I thought was really the least important, which actually hindsight's 2020. Looking back now, I know it is the most important. And this was the goal. The goal. Because without it, none of the other stuff matters. None of it. And this is what it was. How to become rich without being poisoned by it or toxified by it, or being changed by it in a certain degree to where I couldn't handle it, or to where I would spoil family members and ruin them. Whatever those things needed to be of the human psyche, that was the mission. That was part of the mission, is to figure that out, and then to develop a system that could be handed down so other family members could use that. Something that was so profound and so deep that you only had to look at it. And it's like just the fact of turning those lights on, your brain and your mind and your heart and body and soul would naturally adjust to it just by looking at it. That was one of them. And here's another one. This is what came out this morning. Actually, it came out earlier. I think it was at the beginning of 2019, mid-2019. I wrote out on one of those little missions, no set end of goal of when it to be completed or nothing like that. But what it was to figure out exactly how and why the things it was that created that snap in me that day, that made me go crazy, that actually eventually made me go sane, those elements that made that spark. Because I've been running on an inspiration all this time, and I've seen a lot of hard days. I've been running on an inspiration to where it pulls me. I don't have to push myself. I don't have to motivate myself. I just do the research and development. That was one of the main goals right there, is to develop Franklin Ray Psychological Research and Development. Bam, that's it. And then, of course, the mission and purpose that went to that. Small handful of words for that mission, small handful of words for that purpose. Still the same thing. But that has been the driving force. And Franklin Ray, if you're wondering who that is, that was my biological father. That's a whole nother story. I'll do a video sometime about that. About how I hated him for years. I mean, a deep hatred. Of course, his wife, aka my mother, put all them hate seeds in me throughout those years and fanned those flames of that hate and fostered it and made that grow in the garden. But after I grew up and, his last 10 years of his life, we become friends. We worked on it. We made it happen. We tore through all those blockages. So anyways, Speaking, public speaking. Right now, we're at a jumping off place where the way the AI machines are, and it's already walking off and leaving everybody. This past couple of years is what once it's been released, that gap between the rich and the middle class and then the lower class is widening quickly. So here's what I propose. Everyone needs to become a visionary. And no, you don't have to have, and what I mean by a visionary, basically somebody who can dream up what could possibly be, what our society could possibly be, what it could look like. Just dream something up, shit, anything. I mean, because the gap is happening right now, right here, right now. And historically, it's been shown over and over that when that happens like that, and that accelerates that far, that quickly, it goes bad. Most generally, it goes bad because the poor are crushed under that weight. See, there's got to be a happy medium to make it work. Too many people getting rich too quick, too much greed. They don't know how to handle the money. They don't know that it's gratitude, a deliberate, intentional gratitude and thankfulness on a daily basis, or at least a weekly basis, an appreciation for the little things of life, the minutiae of life. That, something so simple, something so easy to do, avoid so much problems, and yet just goes right over our heads. It's the craziest shit ever. So simple and easy. See, simple is it's easily understood. Easy means you can do it without even really practicing. You just got to do it. Simple and easy. I mean, my God, it doesn't get any better than that. How many things in life, simple or easy, all you got to do is look at it and your life will naturally adjust properly. I think of the Bible in the Old Testament in the beginning of it. And no, I'm not no religious ass person. Just don't think I'm coming off on some Jesus shit. So don't run off yet. In the Old Testament, I can't remember if it was Moses or one of them, but they was living amongst a bunch of poisonous snakes. And somehow, as the story goes, these people were getting bit and they were dying from it pretty quickly. Some odd reason, they killed one of these snakes and hung it up on a pole, hung it up there. And if you were bitten, all you had to do was walk by this thing and look up on it, and you would be healed, and your body would adjust accordingly, and you would be healed. All you had to do was look at it. Now, whether the story is totally metaphorical and just just a big old analogy, that's up for debate. But you can't deny whether it was literal or just, figuratively speaking, the concept